Jesse got out of bed and shaved for this. Okay, I just want to point that out to everybody.
You're running.
I did not.
Late. Anyway,
I ran an electric razor yesterday. That's all I did.
I would still be covered in hair the next day, just everywhere. Hair will grow all the way up to like right here if I don't shave it off. It's terrible. Anyway,
I thought Sasquatch was in the Pacific Northwest.
I can tell you everywhere. Like, inside arm, look, all the way down. It's terrible.
No, I get it all over my back. I've got like angel wings going down my back.
That's called getting old, evidently. It grows where you don't want it to grow, and then it doesn't grow where you need it to grow.
It all migrated down. Like it stopped growing here and then just started going all the way down. Anyway.
Hey, it's good. Just keep doing your workouts and getting healthier. You look good.
Thanks.
You could be you just need a nose ring. You could be like a heavy metal band, lead singer.
Especially when like the rage comes out and the veins pop out in his face. Yeah.
You can sub in for Disturbed.
And it is stellar with some tiny tweaks I got to make. But other than that.
I just want to point out, I think it's important to point this out, that usually when we start a recording, I have to say to myself, these poor people have no clue what they're in for. But Todd Compton is a very good friend of mine, and Jesse Sammons is a very good friend of mine. So I have no idea we all agreed to this. I just feel bad for both of you, but
I'm just here to hang out. I did not anticipate that the topic given was gonna be relevant at all.
Okay, good.
I know you guys.
I want to point out today's energy drink is fucked up Miami. It has I don't know, a lot of caffeine. A lot. I've been avoiding drinking it because it's got 300 milligrams.
Oh
boy.
Yeah. That will put me at about 700 for the day already.
Yeah, there you go.
Man,
there you go.
You take that much to keep your vein from popping out because the caffeine constricts them down.
You know what? That might be contributing to the vein. Look, it's already kind of pushing out. It is
just the high heart rate.
It is a dilator. It is a vasodilator. But you know what? I take so many blood thinners and blood vessel relaxers to counteract all the caffeine and all the other stuff I'm taking. So I don't know. It's they're constantly fighting with each other. I don't know which one's going to win.
Is this like
so far, the blood pressure's been good? So
are you living on like the grown-up version of a Four Loko?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yes. Was it Spark? Was that what it was called all those years ago? The orange drink that was like malt liquor and caffeine. You remember those? That was like. Oh wait, we're in California. You're not allowed to take things that'll kill you, right? Is that what it is?
We have to go looking for them.
Oh,
that was mid 2000s. I remember.
You still get them.
Yeah,
there's alcohol and a ton of caffeine. Yeah.
Yeah, we just had the Four Locos here.
Yeah. I got that. Todd Compton.
Hey,
hey! We're gonna hear a story from Todd Compton.
I get that. I'm just kind of talking about the fact that Todd, let me just put this out there. Todd is less than an hour and a half away from me.
Yeah.
But we're both so busy, we don't ever get to go eat or see each other. And then when we do, Dutch is fussing at both of us and won't let us pay the bill. So it doesn't make any difference at all. But, well, I know, man. I'm just saying, we typically try and get together and hang out and go eat and do
You wouldn't drive 5 minutes to go see him. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, Luke's is all...
I don't know. 5 minutes is... If it's on the way, 5 minutes isn't that bad.
If it's on the way.
If I'm going to go free lunch. If I'm going to go to free lunch, like 5 minutes.
Every time I go up to visit area, I look at Facebook and Lucas he sent some picture of a plane somewhere. I'm thinking, well, oh well.
Right. It never fails.
Like, oh well.
Okay, so let me set this up. He switches.
You set that, David.
Companies.
Hey, David, listen to me, David. David, I'm going to need you to set this up. Can you set this up, David?
Shut up. He switches marketing companies.
Right. Okay.
All the phone call stop, lead stop, or he's not getting any car count. He wasn't sure what was causing it, but he stopped getting cars in the door. Sales went down. He was freaking out. So what happened?
We take the trust of our listeners very seriously, and I hope that you know that when I say that Shopware is the best automotive shop management system, I believe it in my heart of hearts. And now it's even better. With new features like Tech App, it streamlines the inspection and dispatching process for you and your technicians. And with massive improvements to Shopware's exclusive digital vehicle experience, they have stepped their game up to a whole new level. So if you haven't scheduled a demo yet, click the link in the show notes and do it today. If you've already had a demo and you were waiting to finally switch, there has never been a better time. So click that link and get started today.
Well, so I know I talked to you before about our Google Ads, and now from the time I spoke to you and what else I figured out, there's actually a kind of a two-part to the car count and the phone to the car count, not to the phone calls. The phone calls did drop, but I was with one company, advertising with them, Google Ads, all kind of stuff, paying my money. Nothing was moving the needle. So I was probably with them for, I don't know, maybe around 6 to 8 months, probably roughly 6 to 8 months. And so then, actually I went up to Lucas's shop, had a shop marketing pros up there and talked to those guys. And so I came back, got on the phone with them, set up a couple appointments, and then, their staff kind of looked into my, I guess, Google profile. And come to find out, and I don't know how all this stuff works, but I got an email from one of the ladies saying, I don't know how this happened, but all your negative AdWords are in your main ads. So, so everything that somebody was searching for was being...
It was like blocking them.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And I was like, all right. I said, well, let's get that fixed. And so that was kind of that's the answer, kind of short answer to your question. Then the car count, what we found is that even when we went with Google, even when we went with Sharp Marketing Pros, the calls were coming in, but then we still weren't getting the car count we needed. And so no matter what I did, I'd go visit companies, visit people, my neighbors around here. I mean, just constantly being out, getting involved with the local functions, charities, Christmas events, fall events, things like that.
And everything. Yeah.
Yep. And nothing. I mean, we could not move the needle no matter what. I mean, our reviews were, we weren't getting any bad reviews. I got auto shop follow-ups to call people back and try to find out what's kind of going on. And so finally, I think I took 2 days off, and I just went home and I just listened to phone calls. Just listen to phone calls. I listened to months of phone calls.
That'll do it.
And what I found, it wasn't that we had bad service or bad
conversion tactics or
right
Salesmanship. Yeah.
Correct. What it was is that over a period of time, we would limit what we were taking in and the type of jobs. And so if you think of it as a funnel, and you have, you take in everything, you got all this stuff coming in. Well, over time, we kept restricting it to where now we just had a drip. We don't work on a lot of diesels. So I'll kind of give you an example of this one call. And so, we may do, oil services, fuel filters, things like that, tire rotations. But when it comes to mechanical, we just don't touch it. We're not set up for it. And so, a guy called in with like a 2016 F-250 truck. That's how he called in. He says, I have an F-250. He says, I want to get my ball joints replaced. Okay. Great job. We've done them. We've done thousands of them.
Yeah.
And so the advisor starts taking his information, and then also she finds out it's a diesel. And right then she says, we don't work on diesels.
Yep.
And he says, well, you're not having to do anything with the engine. And she goes, I understand. She goes, we don't work on diesels. And as I'm listening to this phone call, I'm like, oh my.
Watching that $2,000 job just go.
I'm like,
Todd
oh my
grabs the
gosh.
trash can, slides it over,
And-
the lunch goes back in the trash can.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, she's doing what she's doing what we told her to do. Yeah.
Mhm.
But, and then, so that was one phone call. Then another one was, I remember a guy called in with a Toyota, like Sienna van or something like that. And one of the rear sonar sensors, the wiring harness was hanging down. And she's like, well, that probably needs to go to a body shop because it's located inside the bumper. And I'm like, oh gosh.
They almost like they're diagging it over the phone, or like they're and you know something, Todd, I resonate with this a little bit. And you know Jade that's on the front counter at my shop. She's now the shop manager. And so Jade, and I've learned a lot because of my wife as well. My wife and Jade are very much alike. They're very literal. And you tell them something and it is by the book and it is within these bounds and this is what I do. And
Right.
and so when I'm on the phone, when I'm on the front counter, I'm dynamic and I'm thinking about, is this a good fit? Is that a bad fit? Do I need to just get it in and we'll evaluate it and see what we need to do? Or like, how do we handle this? And so when I would tell Jade things and I would say, hey, we don't do this kind of work. Well, anything that sounded like it fit into those lanes of work that we didn't do just got said, nope, we don't do that. So we had to develop a different process. Is that what you did?
Yeah, well, I don't know. My process probably was not quite as elaborate as yours, I guess, or maybe, I don't know. But
I don't know. I just told Jade to say yes to everything and we'd figure it out.
well, once I came back from the time, I almost couldn't wait to get back to. I think I cut it short. I just came back and had a meeting with everybody, and I went over. My notebook. I wrote down all the vehicles that we had turned away. And I had a meeting with the whole staff, and I was like, this is kind of what's going on. I'm not saying everybody's done anything wrong. I said, but we need to open this up and understand and bring in what. I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting like a little buzz noise in my ear. I'm not sure what's kind of going on, but
Yeah, I'll fix it. Don't worry about it.
So we had a discussion with the technician and the advisor. We started discussing this and going through the vehicles that were being turned away, and then try to educate what we can bring in, what we can't, and what the techs felt comfortable bringing in when it came to diesels. And so we started kind of opening that up, open that line of communication up, and start working on bringing the stuff in.
For sure.
Now, unfortunately, some of the damage had already been done financially, and so one thing I do want to kind of point out with the journey on this was that especially like today's where everybody's looking for good technicians. I had a good I had 3 technicians, and so I had to let one go.
Oh man,
because because I kept trying to hang on and trying to figure out the car count. And I paid everybody hourly. I paid. There was nobody's flat rate, and I paid everybody hourly. But it
wouldn't have been fair anyways if you had been paying them flat rate because you weren't supplying the cars.
Correct.
They didn't have the opportunity to earn the salary anyway.
That's right, and you're absolutely right. And so the person that took the hit was me. My payroll it took a quite hard hit, but it got to the point where I had to make a decision on trying to pull out a line of credit to keep the business going, and then. I felt like I needed to let at least one technician go to try to cut some of that expense. And so, where everybody's trying to find a good tech, here I am. I'm letting one go, and it was not his fault. And so, kind of a learning lesson there. And we are throughout 2025. We've gotten a lot stronger. And now I am pursuing another tech. So
right.
Kind of gives you a short.
Was this all about like a year ago, last year, during 2024?
So it started probably third quarter of 2023, and and when the light bulb finally went off, and I figured out what was going on was around November of 2024.
Wow.
So,
And that's, it can take, things move a lot slower than you think as far as figuring them out, or even when you go try and start fixing stuff, how long it takes to actually start working and showing up and getting momentum in the right direction.
Wait for we want to see the big sign, the big red flashing sign.
Right.
We want it to be so obvious that, oh, that's it right there. Where it usually takes some digging. And I think what I told you, Todd, was that, hey, you need to go back and look and see if your phone call volume dropped. Mm-hmm. Because if your phone call volume dropped, then it is an ads problem. The ads are just not generating the amount of phone calls that you need. But if your phone call volume has stayed consistent, but your car count has dropped, then you're losing them in the conversion. The phone calls are coming in, and the phone calls are not turning into appointments. So then that's where you jump on and start listening to phone calls and going, okay, we missed an opportunity there. We missed an opportunity there. We missed an opportunity there. And then you start adding up. This could have been an additional 15 appointments this month, and we didn't take them in. Well, that should tell you what the problem is right there. Now I've got to either replace somebody or train them or whatever, figure something out.
And it's not much. I consider myself probably similar to Lucas, where we're a low volume shop, low volume, high ARO shop. And so when I needed 9 vehicles per day, is what I needed. I was getting 6.5. That's not a lot. That's just a couple phone calls a day.
Yeah,
and
with $1,100 ARO, it's not a lot, but it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah,
it's 10-15 grand at the end of the month.
Yeah,
that's a tech salary plus some bills.
Yeah,
right. You can't cover anymore.
And here's something I take away from this. And Todd, I'm gonna take some liberty here and share from my perspective. And Jesse, I think you're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. You're full blown growth right now, and you're digging, and you're in it every day, and you're fighting for this thing, trying to make this thing bigger and bigger and bigger. Todd, I think in a lot of ways, one of the things that I noticed about you, and I feel very similar to this in some ways, is that at some point or another, you were kind of saying dude, I have been out here killing myself for this thing for years. I want to breathe a little bit. I want to enjoy life. And so it's easy for us who have been out here and just getting it constantly to say, I'm going to take a deep breath. I've got a good team in place. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you turn them loose, and then you come back and you say, oh shit, I didn't realize that one little roadblock or that one little guardrail wasn't in that one spot. And that bit me. Right. And so I'm trying to, because I did that, right? We hired a manager, and the manager, there were a couple things. I think we were in Jacksonville, Florida with the Institute. And I got a telephone call. And you know how I am about the ethical and moral thing. I want to make sure we tell the absolute truth. We don't leave any room for any anything.
I remember that.
We're going to tell the truth. And if we screwed up, we're just going to say we screwed up. We're going to fix it. We're going to make it right. And I'd hired this manager, and he comes in, super sweet dude. I'm not saying anything about him as a human being, but he had a very different culture and had been raised in a very different environment as far as business ownership than where I had been or business culture. And I get a call. Now, we have an F-150 in the shop. The shop had put timing chains in this thing a while back. The issue being that this thing has not had an oil change since we put timing chains in it, and it's been 24,000 miles. Right?
Oh, no.
Yep. And so guess what? It broke a timing chain. Now, these were already known to be breaking timing chains. It was all OE components. There was no evidence we had done anything wrong. There was no evidence. It was gummy. It had trash in it. And so the manager / advisor at this time calls the client and says, your vehicle needs an engine. And when I talked to him later in the day, I said, did you explain why it needs an engine? Because the way he said it to me made me nervous. And he said, no. You don't tell him that it was because the timing chains failed. He doesn't need to worry about that. He just needs to know it needs an engine. And I said, now wait just a minute. He's going to read that ticket. What happens if he comes and picks the vehicle up and takes it somewhere else? Because our honesty, our moral compass, our ethics dictate we can't do what you just did And right before I'd left, we had talked about the vision and mission statement. We had talked about our core values. We had talked about these things, and we said, hey, listen, I don't care what you guys do with the shop. Here's our core values, and these should make our decisions. And now you're doing something that's antithetical to what I believe, and I know it's antithetical to what the tech believes because the tech has called me and said, I'm not okay with this, right? And it in your case, they were doing what they thought was right. But if us as leaders don't analyze it, don't check it, don't review it, don't listen to it, trust but verify, what happens? Well, you can kind of get the exact same thing. It can become this runaway train. And it erodes little by little. And because nobody ever came back and said, hey, don't do that, there's nothing to say or set back in motion, no, you're going too far with that. Does that make sense? I mean, is that how you felt about it?
Well, yeah, it was like a runaway train. It was a runaway train that I did not see. I had no idea. I had no idea we're turning that work away.
Yeah.
The reviews, a couple things gave me some false sense of security. With Google reviews, getting multiple, we get multiple 5-star reviews a month, week, whatever it may be, and then also with the auto shop follow up, with the people calling customers back, nothing was bad. So I got this sense of security. It's like, okay, well, our reviews are good. Our feedback is good. What is it? And so I'm thinking, the phone thing was not on my radar. It was not on my radar at all because I'm thinking we don't work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did this start out like from a place of good intentions where you guys were on purpose trying to trim down, like you're talking about the hose, slowly pinching down, trying to get more of the ideal customers coming through the door?
Yes.
But maybe like you said, you just didn't realize or weren't paying close enough attention. You just didn't realize that you'd passed a certain point where it wasn't worth it anymore.
Exactly. Okay. Years ago, so I've been in business for 20 years. And I remember starting off, if it was rusty, if it had 4 wheels on it and rolled, I'd worked on it. It didn't matter what it was. Extending credit to customers, out of my own pocket, having predated checks. I mean, that kind of dates, myself a little bit, when people, date checks and post-date checks. Jaguars, Maseratis, Fiats, wherever it may be, we worked on. And until years go by, and then I start learning, things that they do and don't make you money, and there's certain customers that bleed you. And
yeah, for sure.
And so that's when I was like, okay, we need to start picking our customers, and start regulating what we're doing. And so that's kind of what I started doing. But then when I kind of gave the lead to, at the time I had another advisor, actually he was my son, he was kind of instructed, to kind of take the lead on some of the work that was coming in. And then when our other advisor came in, he just kind of showed her that. And so when I'm thinking things are going hunky dory, they're not. And it just like you said, Jesse, it wasn't on my radar. Completely missed it.
So this brings up another interesting topic that's been on my mind a lot lately, because I think all of us in the room, David, you say you're not a technician, but at heart, you're really a technician deep down inside. And so like one of the things that I've noticed as being a business owner, right? When I started the shop, we took everything on too. And it didn't matter what it was. I took it upon myself to figure that out, right? And one of the things that I'm noticing now, and I have got an amazing team, so don't take as what I'm getting ready to say as something bad about my team. But I look at my team right now, and I can say, hey, go take that 6.0 and do this. Now, in the top of my head, I know exactly what I would do. I know exactly how I would approach it. I know exactly what parts I would put on it. And if I didn't know, I know the pathway I would take to figure that out. Where am I going to do my research? What am I going to do to narrow this down? How am I going to find the information I need? right? Like I'm not just depending on my knowledge. If I don't know, I'm going to go find out, right? And one of the things that I found is that because of the amount of time that I put into that as the owner, right? Because I didn't just stop when it was 5 o'clock. I went home and I looked up that truck I was working on. And I would research that circuit and I would understand where that circuit was. And then I would go and I would search and see how other people were fixing it. And oh, by the way, you need this part and this part and this part and this part. And I wouldn't take that off like that. I would do it like this. And so I was doing constant research, but I was investing 100 hours a week to do that. And it's not realistic or reasonable to ask your people to do that. And so one of the things that happened when I stepped out of the shop is we moved from having somebody that was doing that level of attention to detail to these things to technicians who didn't have experience with those particular jobs. And so I just walked away and said, here, go do the thing. But they had never done that research. They had never understood that. Now, when I was writing service, guess what? I was here to be able to put it on the ticket and catch the mistake and say, nope, I've done that before. Don't do that, do this. But they didn't have me after a while because now I've moved from service advisor to doing all this other stuff I'm doing. Guess what? I left this vacant spot and it's not even necessarily knowledge, it's just experience of doing the job. How do we counter that? Right? I want to know what y'all think about that because that's something I'm still fighting with to this day.
It's funny you said it because as you're talking about looking at circuits and staying late and all that stuff. I remember vehicles. My background was drivability. When I worked at dealerships, so that's what I did, and I enjoyed it. And so sometimes I could not wait till 5 o'clock, and the technicians would go home, and I would lock the front door, and I would look at that car, if it was a check engine light or short or open or whatever it may be, and I would just get in my own world, and I would mess with, and then the following morning I'd go over with the findings. Yeah. Now, what's changed is that the technicians that I had at that particular time, when I stepped out of the shop, unfortunately, my technician turnover had rolled over as well, too. So I stopped going out in the shop, but then I try to place more trust into the technicians and let them do what they're being paid to do. And even as the owner, I'll see tickets come through and I will just kind of monitor them. If something that I knew that I may have had experience with, I'm like, you know what? It's not my job anymore. Let me see where they go with it. Let them kind of, and I'll have to say, it reminds me of back when I hired my first tech, is that first technician did things differently than I did. But as long as the result came out the same, that's what was fine. So as I'm looking at a ticket, where it may be an engine noise or a drivability complaint, where it may be, as much as I want to get involved on it, I just let it go. I'll look at the technician notes, and ultimately, 99.9% of the time, not every time, and we still have those times where it comes back or doesn't get fixed, but the end result is the same. For sure. And I think I'm in a good place like that with my team right now. One thing I will say about that, though, is that when I started teaching, for instance, like when I started teaching Eric, I think Jesse, you and I may have talked about this at one point, but like when I started teaching Eric how I went about my process, dude's eyeballs looked like they were going to blow out of his head because I was so detailed about how I went through it. And I had a method, a concept for how I did things. Right. Mm-hmm. And as I started teaching him that, like he picked up a lot of the way that I did things and he said, hey, I just need you to know that like we're going to have a really hard time duplicating you because you do things in a very advanced way. And if you have tasked me with being the foreman of this shop and you expect me to be able to duplicate what you just showed me, you understand that's a complex thing to do, right? Like that's a 1 in a million kind of thing. And I'm not bragging on myself. It's not that. I just spent a ton of time doing it. And so I've had a lot of conversations with people, and Mike Allen is somebody that I've talked to about it. And Mike said, listen, maybe this is where you have to have this conversation about quality is like, hey, I'm okay with 80%. And Mike says, well, I'm not a technician. So I don't know if it's 80%. I don't know if it's 20%. I just know that they didn't come back screaming at me. Is it okay? Well, I don't know. And so that's something I've struggled with. Jesse, have you ever, because you're still in the shop a lot right now, right?
Well, lately, the last few weeks, I have been in the shop a lot because I had to let somebody go a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that's pulled me back in there a little bit, but I'm in the business every day. I am still doing the service work, and then relevant a lot to what you've been talking about just now, and what you were explaining before. But when you slowly started taking steps back, you don't realize when you're there in the moment, when you're, when it's all directly in front of you, you don't realize that, like you said, you spent all those hours, all that time, whatever, figuring things out and how you would approach certain problems on diesels, for example. And you can't just hand that off and expect them to have the knowledge you do. So what do you do instead? Okay, now you step back and you're in the office and you are still you're helping guide them. You're there in the office, catching things or kind of still directing things. But what you don't realize is by doing that, you're also kind of holding them back because you're not letting them learn on their own.
Yep.
And that's kind of one of the struggles that I'm working through. It's like I've got to reset my expectations. I'm very blessed with the people that work with me every day. They're great. Like everybody shows up and they're all working hard, but I think that I've done myself and them a disservice over the last couple years of trying to have my hands in everything too much because it just ultimately just stunts their growth.
Yeah.
And no, exactly. It's not scalable at all.
Able to grow past that. So the biggest issue you end up seeing is the philosophical approach to the vehicle.
Yeah.
Lucas, you look at the car and your approach, your guiding principle is, I want to fix the car.
Yep.
There's a problem with the car, whether you can replicate it, maybe you can't, it's there, it's not there, whatever. You want to fix the car. I'm telling you right now that is like a 1% trait. Maybe it's not 1%, let's say it's 5%. I'm telling you, 95% of people, and I'm talking the best of the best technicians, they're fantastic at what they do. They are genuine. They are hardworking. They're dedicated. They're ethical. But their guiding principle is not, come hell or high water, I want to fix this car. Their guiding principle is, I want this to go away.
Yeah.
That's it. And so think about it. What happens when the problem isn't there when they drive it? Could not duplicate. Go away. Yeah. What happens if they couldn't hear the noise? What happens if they don't catch the fault on the scanner? What if they don't catch it with the lab scope? What happens if, like, hey, it's got a check engine light for this particular sensor, but the sensor's reading right. Everything's fine right now. Go away. Well, the problem with that, and I'm telling you, this is 95% of technicians. Now, like, you can keep it's a scale. So the very best of the best still approach it that way. But they'll do their due diligence where as you keep going down the scale of shittier and shittier mechanics, they stop caring and they're like, good, I didn't hear the noise. Go away. It's like, dude, because you had the radio on. Like, did you roll down the windows even? Whatever, right? They didn't do their due diligence because they really don't care. But most of them do care and they do want to try. But their approach isn't, I want to fix the car. It's, I need this to go away so I can move on to the next car. I don't know why they think that way. I don't know how to instill that let's make sure the car's fixed. Can we fix the car? What do we need to do to fix the car? Hey, go make a list. Are there 5 things we need to do, 6 things to do? Can you come up with 5 or 6 things that we could do to try to fix this car today, here and now? I would approach it that way. That's how I look at every car. I want to get this thing fixed. I don't need it to come back. I don't want it to come back. I want it to leave fixed. 1, because I want the money, because otherwise we can't collect any money if we don't fix the flipping car, right? And then 2, I want them to leave happy because they came here, we fixed the problem, and they went away with a fixed vehicle. You are approaching it that way too. That's why you're looking up wiring diagrams. That's why you're looking up or coming up with a diagnostic process. And this is the way I'm going to approach this. And I think I can find the solution if I do this, whatever, right? Where they're thinking, I just got to move on to the next car. What do I need to do to move on to this next car? And sometimes it's a do not duplicate, go away. But the problem is, what happens? What's the next step?
Well,
the car comes flipping right back, and now it's in the parking lot again, and now they're not so happy. as the first time they showed up. Now what?
They weren't even happy the first time they showed
Yeah,
up. Now
they were
they're
not
really
ecstatic
unhappy.
to be there to begin with. Exactly. And I
Do you
just
have
don't know how to
processes?
translate that. What's that?
Do you have specific processes in place for when you can't duplicate stuff, and how you handle that with the customer? How you might attempt a second retry, or
to a certain degree, but a lot of it gets left to the technician. That the technician's going to approach it, because I'm paying these guys to do a job, like Todd said, right? You're paying them to do the job. Like, I don't want to get involved. If I'm going to get involved, then I got to get involved in everything, and I really don't want to get involved at all. I don't want to be there.
That's my problem. I get involved.
Right.
Me too. But I'm just telling you, dude, it is mentally taxing, and it sucks the soul out of me, and I just really don't want to do it.
It wore me
exhausted
down
all the
trying
time
to do that. And look, here's the deal. Like, Jesse, we talk about processes, and we talk about policies, and we talk about procedures, but you can't build a process for everything. You can't, you can put things around it and say, here's what we do if this happens, but there's always an outlier, right?
Well,
You're only going to be able to create a process for the rule, not the exception, because there's so many exceptions that you can't predict. Right. And here's the other thing is, one, we frustrate our technicians when we get involved to that degree. And we either frustrate them because they say, hey, I'm capable of this, but you're trying to dictate the process. Yeah. Or B, they become reliant solely on us. So the workload then increases on us. They all of a sudden can't do as much as they could do before.
Or they get lazy. They get lazy because they're like, oh, I don't have to try that hard, because Lucas will come up behind me and make sure that I've crossed my T's and dotted my I's.
Yes. And then I've seen that happen before firsthand many times, that exact thing. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, it's like, I was asking David about if he has processes and stuff for that, because I'm curious, like, how he handles it. But at the same time, there's gray areas with everything. Yeah. And, it's like, we have certain ways we handle things. Like, sometimes we can't duplicate the problem. We spend our time. It's like, I actually have the opposite problem of what David was just saying. I've got to get them. It's like, dude, it's been 3 hours. Like, I know you're trying to figure it out, but we can't just keep going on with this.
See, the 3 hours involved is not the complexity of the problem. That's I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You see what I'm saying?
Problem with the approach sometimes, or it's an intermittent electrical thing,
like, hey, you didn't start. Like, it's the Jim Morton, start with the general and then keep like narrowing it down to pinpoint. Like, start with a bigger issue, or like a bigger system, and then keep going down so you can pinpoint the issue.
A systemized approach.
Complex problems if you've got to be 3 hours into it. And I will give my tech 3 hours to diag something if it's a vehicle that we haven't seen before. He has to learn the system. He is very diligent about sitting down, and he will read theory of operation. He will read how the system works. He will go through diag.net and say, these are some of the ways that the book doesn't talk about how the system is supposed to work, and to some of the intricacies, because the idea is 3 hours on this car will translate into 45 minutes on the next one, and 30 minutes on the next one, and 30 minutes on the next one, and so on and so forth. So I'm okay with the 3 hours. But if I know that, hey, if I were to diag that vehicle, it would take me 15 minutes, and they're 3 hours into it. It's like, dude, what have you been doing? Like, let's talk about this.
Sure.
And it's like, well, I wanted to do this, and then I've been trying to catch it on the scan tool, and this, that. Dude, it's a 3-wire circuit. Power, ground.
What I was trying to get at, though, is I was trying to just say, like, the best diag tech or the best technician can be guilty of this happening to them as well. And it's like, there has been times I'm like, okay, what have you been doing for the last hour and a half? When you tell me what's going on, I already know what the problem is in my head, and I can go verify it in 5 minutes. Yeah, that happens occasionally. But, dude, like, I don't know if it's just me or what, but there are so many intermittent electrical faults that come and go. And, dude, I don't care how good you are. If the technician has the mentality that you just said, where they want to figure it out, they don't want to let that car beat them. They want to fix the car. Yeah. They want to die.
But at the same time, though, they're taking the approach that they're looking at it as, I'm going to see the problem. Right. You see what I'm saying? Rather than the process of elimination. Because sometimes you don't catch it. The computer is looking at it 1,000 times a second. Like, they're catching sample, ooh, glitch, sample, glitch, code on. Right? And guess what? You're not going to catch that. I'm sorry. And you might have to drive it for 2 hours to catch that.
Well, so I'll give you an
Trust the
example.
computer.
I just went through this the other day. We had a newer Chevy Express van that would go into limp mode and start having shifting issues. But it would only happen to the customer after we did more called and did more questioning. It would only happen after he went down to where he was working. So it's like, well, we tried reproducing it, couldn't reproduce it at all. So we ended up sending the CSR in the middle of the morning when after customers had checked in and been picked up and dropped off or whatever. When she had some free time, we had her go drive the thing for over an hour. And I told her exactly what to do. It's like, okay, go down the mountain, come up the mountain, get it hot, and drive around town until it messes up. It's feasible for me to do that versus have the technician spend all the time to do that, right? Sure, yeah. But as soon as she had reproduced the problem and said something's wrong and came back, the technician was able to go out and diagnose it in 15, 20 minutes. But
here's the thing is we had a very similar situation. Okay. Had a 6.0 Power Stroke come in the shop a while back. It's actually still here right now. Long story short, truck comes in and he says it's shutting off and it feels low on power and it's surging. Okay. Now, what did I find? I found that I had evidence that the vanes were stuck in the charger. I found that I definitely had a code for fuel cut, the 6.0s with the newest revision flash. So in other words, if that truck was updated at any point, if it reads low on fuel, it will go into a reduced power mode, which cuts power, cuts boost. And it had a fault code for reduced power because fuel sending unit, those fuel sending units, they click open, right? They rust out, they open, and all of a sudden it'll show that it's empty. And so I knew that I had to investigate that. And the instrument cluster would show that it was charging at 18 volts and the cluster wouldn't come on, but I had ignition source on, all of these things. And so what I did was, because we were short of tech that day, I came back and I said, all right, here's the deal. Here's the test I want, right? And that's the rule in my shop. Is you tell me what test you would need to do to duplicate, recreate, and determine the cause of the client's concern. And then we're going to put the ball in their court. We're going to say, how much will you invest in this vehicle if you want this fixed? I'm not saying it's going to be this much. I tell them it's a retainer. If I have to go to this detail, is this what you want me to do to duplicate and correct this concern, or at least find the cause of this concern? Is this what you want? Right? Now, I had a list of issues. All of them could contribute to his original concern. What do you want me to do? So now we're getting paid for it, right? One of the issues in my shop that I run into, and we talk a lot, we've shifted in my shop from talking about fixing the car to focused on what is the outcome we want. And for the longest time, I would say my desired outcome is a properly repaired automobile that's safe and reliable for the client, right? But I also want the guest to have a good experience. And so what does that look like? And so I talk to my team all the time. I want you to put yourself in the client's shoes. What would you want if you didn't know anything about cars? If your wife took your car to a shop and she called you and was explaining the process, what would you want this to look like? How would you want this to play out? Because if we just talk about process, policy, procedure, and how to test the vehicle, see, us as mechanical guys, we get so deep into fixing the car that we don't think about the grand scheme of things. It's like, to us, fixing the car is simple. Just get out of my way and let me do it. But we never teach them. We never give them guiding principles that move the process forward. And so I think that our industry lacks that. When they're in the dealership, and Todd, you've got years and years and years of dealership experience. And I mean, I would have never guessed you had as much clout in the dealership world as you do, but I say that in a nice way. That sounded mean.
You're making it like really old. I'm Dutch's age. I'm not Dutch's age.
You're Dutch's age? Oh my God.
I'm not Dutch's age.
Were you there when they discovered the formula for dirt? Is that how it started?
I'll tell you, we had Tech 1 when I was there.
Whew. I'm sorry. No, I'm just playing.
I think I've only ever seen one of those one time before.
Right, it was in a museum.
I've never seen
it. Was in a case.
Yeah.
But like in that world, the whole concept was, how do we get this car out of the door? Right. And I think David's right about that. I think there's a whole generation of technicians who were raised up, and that was everything we talked about. Get the car out, get the car out, get the car out, get the car out. I made a video a while back and I talked about that. It's all about the KPI for a lot of people. You can become so wholly focused that all you see is numbers. Jeff Compton said, he did an episode with Josh Parnell yesterday that came out. And I really thought about something Jeff said in there. And David's going to hate it when I say this. Jeff said, for all of my years working on cars, I was always recognized as my employee number. And he said, my longest tenure in this one particular dealership, he said, I was 79031. And he said, I wasn't Jeff Compton. I wasn't the technician who was working on the car. I wasn't a parent. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't any of those things. I was that number, and I had hours associated with me, and that's how I was seen.
I was 553.
Yeah.
That's my number.
Right. And so
that's how you know he's old. He's a 3-digit number. Before they went to the 4 digits.
That's all we need to know. You ask Dutch about flying airplanes, and you ask him about autopilot, and he looks at you sort of funny, like, "What's that?" Yeah. Oh, well, they put that in airplanes in the 40s, Dutch. Oh, whoops. Probably shouldn't have talked about that.
Yeah, and you talk about it's about being a number. I recall at the dealer, I was at the dealer. Now, to be fair, I have 10 years of dealership experience, so it's not like I got 20, 30 years. But I remember my kids were like 6 or 7 and 3, and my wife, she predominantly took the kids to the doctor's appointments if they got sick or whatever follow-ups or whatever it may be. And so I remember one particular time, my wife, she could not get off from work this one particular time to take our oldest son to the doctor. And so I remember going up to my shop foreman and told him, I said, I need to leave today at, I don't know, say 2:00. And he looked at me, he says, that's what your wife's for. Yes. And he says, I need you here. And of course, we were completely on flat rate. And I don't think it was, it was one of the things where I think went back to my stall, twiddling my thumbs, and I had nothing to do. Well, at the time, I was a team leader. And again, I'll date myself. We had Nextel. And so I grabbed my key, I grabbed my Nextel, and I went to this service manager, put my phone and key on the table and told him I quit. Now, he asked me, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I told him the situation. He said, you know what, Todd, you go ahead and do what you need to do. But I hope to see you back tomorrow morning. The shop foreman was a completely different animal, different person. He's like, nope, that's what your wife's for. You're here to work. So those are some times I remember back in the dealership mentality. And I was a number, and it's like, nope, you're here. You're here.
One of the things I think about that, though, right? Like when we get into that, we think about what created that mindset, what created that perspective. And there's a lot of technicians who talk about how owners treat them, right? And there's not a lot of talk about the treatment from technicians to owners, right? And I think every single one of us in this recording has hired a bad technician, right? And there's not a lot of talk about that. And maybe there is. In some of the groups, there's some talk about it from owners who are talking about it, but it can come across as upsetting or frustrating. If technicians saw it, they'd be upset. But until you've experienced that as an owner, until you've experienced that as a foreman, this guy just destroyed a car. This guy just, I'll tell a little bit of a sensitive story. I probably shouldn't tell it, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I had a situation where somebody that did work for us took their own life a while back. They weren't working for us when it happened. And it was a really unique situation. We could tell there were things going on. We did what we could to be supportive. And 8 years ago, I probably would have been very upset with this person because there were cars that they had looked at that I went out to, and they had not, they just didn't do anything. They didn't do any testing. They just recommended a whole list of things. And then I talked to other people, and other people were telling me like, hey, that's a known thing. They would take the key and they'd walk around the vehicle, turn around, walk back in and make a list of recommendations. Not even look at it. And so those scenarios, those things can burn an owner. Now, I think in this guy's case, there were some mental health issues. And so I'm not I'm not saying anything bad about this man. I think he was a great human being. I hate that what happened. But my point is that when those things happen, it builds these kind of emotional responses. And what do? You start putting barriers up. And so instead of being, compassionate and understanding what that person's going through and working with them, they were already jaded when they came to you. They didn't care about the business. They didn't care about you. They built this barrier in you because of their attitude. And so I think that as leadership and as owners, we've got to be really careful about that. That's the hardest job with leadership for me, is like all of these experiences that I've been through, not letting the person that, I've told the story about the guy who did the burnout in the middle of the parking lot in front of a client in the client's vehicle, right? Now, he was a giant piece of crap, but I can't let the experience with him dictate the experience with every other technician that ever works for me. And that, for me, is hard as a leader, right? Because I've been through all those things. There's a particular person, Todd, and you'll know who I'm talking about, that owns a shop in North Carolina. He's been in and out of the association for years in North Carolina. And I was asking somebody one time, like, hey, this dude's really grumpy and grouchy. And they said, you don't understand what he's been through. You don't know the things that he's faced in his life. And he might seem grumpy and grouchy, but you just don't know what he's been through. And I think about that a lot as a leader now. Like, hey, we don't understand their whole picture. And I think it's where we're getting more and more divided from technicians and service advisors and owners. We're all trying to go in these different directions. It's because we're putting these barriers up because of past experiences, right? We take that baggage with us.
I totally agree with that. I think from some of the experiences that I've had back, even in my dealer days, in running my shop initially by myself, then I think sometimes I may become too soft of a leader. Because things that really affected me as far as when it came to family and things like that story I told you. Sure. If I have a technician now that has kids and they say, "Hey Todd, I need to leave at 1:00," I'm
Why
like,
are you still here? Why'd you even come in?
Like, see ya.
Yeah.
But then where's the bounce on that as far as someone taking advantage of that? And so that's something you've got to really kind of, at least I've got to be mindful of, and I have been taking advantage of, I think, on that. And I guess maybe sometimes I think that's okay. I don't want to guess or second guess someone's, if they got to take care of something on outside of workplace. I don't want that to
you
fill my
just
head.
brought up the word balance, and everything we're talking about, this entire conversation, there's it's not black or white. There's not this or it's this. And that's the hard part about being an owner and being a leader, is trying to figure out where the balance point is, because you can't have everything, and that's the biggest thing I struggle with, is trying to find the balance of, again, like you were just saying, do you let your people go when they need to go? Yes. Do you let them go take care of things in their personal life they need to? Yes. But do you just let it happen so often that you just stop questioning or let people walk all over you? No, but it's hard to walk it back, eventually too, if you've been guilty of doing that for too long. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't know you.
No, you're good. But I'm saying that same principle applies to everything. Even when we're talking earlier about training, does the technician care about what they're doing, and how do they approach the car? What is their desired outcome, or what are their motivations? And it's like, I thought it was interesting when David was talking about that earlier. It's like, I wonder if, do you think that there might be something to the fact of some of us allow less than optimal performance or less than optimal behavior because it is so difficult for people to find technicians right now. And, it's like, so I think a lot of owners have dealt with that before too. It's like, well, man, this isn't great, but I don't want to, I'm too afraid to go in and try and actually fix this problem, because what if they leave and then I can't find a replacement for them?
Right. And I'm back in it, doing it all myself all over again. And that sounds miserable.
But that's making decisions based on fear. And I realize I've been guilty of that myself, and that I had like a kind of a wake up call a little bit the last few weeks or month. And I'm like, man, there's multiple different things that I'm dealing with. And I got here because I was allowing fear to guide my decision making. And you got to remind yourself not to do that, because it's never going to lead you to the right path.
You know, this conversation reminds me, and I think Todd was there for this, and I hate to keep talking about the old man, but I'm going to talk about the old man again. We had a panel, and he brought this up in the panel too, but I had a conversation personally with him, and it was along these same lines. And he said, son, let me tell you something. When I came up in the airlines, and as a young man, he said, the deal is that if you landed that plane in the toughest situation you could possibly land it in, the chief pilot didn't come pat you on the back and say, good job, because that was your job. That's what you got paid to do. That was the accountability that was on you. That was your responsibility. And he said, we live in a society where everybody wants to be given the authority to make decisions and given the authority to do things, but none of them want the responsibility to accomplish it. And he said, that's a world for it. Right. He said, that's a world that I live in. And he said, I created that for you. He said, I created this world that you live in, and I didn't hold them accountable. And everybody wants to hug a tree, and everybody wants to feel good about all these things. But the reality is sometimes you don't feel good about things. Sometimes you don't make the right decision, but you're accountable to that. And he said, because if that plane falls out of the sky, it doesn't matter that you told the flight attendant she could fly the plane. It's still your responsibility. There's nobody else that you can give the responsibility to. It's still your fault. And so I think that there is a lapse of accountability, and there is a misunderstanding of what authority versus responsibility is, right? And you can't, in my opinion, you can't have authority without responsibility. Now, plenty of organizations give all the authority you want and then erase the responsibility part of it. And it doesn't teach. I've told the story about my daughter and the spelling bee how many times, right? Like, oh, we're so sorry you lost. That's not fair. We should change the rules to make it fair so you don't get kicked out because you're sad. No, because failure is part of life, right? Like, that is life. You are going to experience failures. That's what makes you stronger. That's what makes you better. That's the incentive to learn more and do better, right? And so in some ways, I think that some of the technicians that we talk to want the responsibility taken away. They want the authority, they want the reward, but they don't want the responsibility. And that's a problem, right? And I think that's a societal thing. I don't think that's just about technicians. I think that is a society as a whole that is slowly breaking and eroding more and more day by day.
You're yelling into a black hole, Lucas. That mindset is extinct. It doesn't exist anymore.
I get that.
Embrace reality now. It's not going to be like that ever again. Ever again. Everybody
I get
wants
it.
to have
I get
pats on the back and a good job. I don't know. I was listening to some cockamamie podcast, and some tech was saying that sometimes I just want to hear a good job, and it goes a long way. It's like, okay, dude, your good job is your paycheck. Hey, you have a job tomorrow. Good job. I haven't fired you. That's how you know you're doing a good job. I haven't fired you yet. Like, what else do you need? But that's gone.
But that's society, right? Like,
that doesn't exist anymore. Now it's all like kumbaya, and I gotta tickle you and fluff your pillow and make sure that you're okay. Do you need a mental health day? That kind of.
Can we have some balance somewhere in between those two things? Because the first one sounded gloomy.
100% the other way. No,
I would not want to work for you for the first version of you.
I can't be like that. Are you kidding me? I would 100% be that way. Dude, when I first started managing, that's how I was. You know how many people quit? I had one guy, like, I gave him his schedule, and he's like, I needed that day off. And I said, okay, well, you didn't get it off. It's a request. It's not a guarantee. He crumbled up the schedule, threw it in my face, and he walked out the door. And I said, okay, next. Didn't care. Next person, I've got a stack of applications 50 feet long. I'll just hire somebody else. Don't care. I had to completely change. People aren't like that anymore. I can't be a hardo about that stuff anymore. Now it's like, oh, man, I'm sorry. You need a hug? Let me take care of that for you. And that's how it is now.
I would probably rather just go ahead and work that day or quit one as opposed to you giving me a hug. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, it would be that bad.
I'll rub your back even. I'll be like, you okay? Is everything
pat,
all right?
pat. You know, when David's when David experiences loss in those around him, David's go-to method is very much Sheldon Cooper. They're there.
They're
Walk on. Sorry. Sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know.
I
You got to push them feelings all the way down, like all the way down. Don't let them out.
Well, I mean,
And you wonder why you have blood pressure issues.
I don't have blood pressure. That's what I'm saying. My blood pressure is great. I check it every night, almost.
It's the mental stability that needs work.
Now I'm taking stuff for that too.
Oh my Lord.